The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It blocked out the sun over parts of North America, casting strange shadows on the ground below. People looked up at the sky in fear and wonder. Commander Jack Reynolds stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station. His heart beat fast as he watched the ship approach. After 30 years in space service, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "Commander, we're getting a signal," said Tom, his communications officer. "They want to talk." Jack took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for since they first looked up at the stars. "First contact." "Put them through," he said. The screen lit up, showing a tall, thin being with pale blue skin and large, dark eyes. It wore something that looked like armor made of a shiny metal Jack had never seen before. "Greetings, humans," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Dorn of the Stellar Confederation, an alliance of 7 space-traveling species. We have heard your signals for decades. We have decided it is time to meet you." Jack stepped forward. "Welcome to Earth. I am Commander Jack Reynolds of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are honored by your visit." Dorn's face showed no emotion. "We request a meeting with your leaders. We will send a small ship to your planet in 6 hours." The screen went dark before Jack could answer. 6 hours later, Jack stood with the president and 5 other world leaders in a quickly prepared meeting room at the United Nations building. A small alien ship landed outside, and Ambassador Dorn walked in with 4 other aliens, each looking different from the others. After basic greetings, Dorn got straight to business. "Our confederation spans 300 planets across 27 star systems. We have traveled the stars for over 1,000 years. And you?" The president spoke with pride. "We have sent people to our moon and robots to several planets in our system. We plan to send humans to Mars within." One of the aliens, a short, round being with rough orange skin, made a sound like laughter. "You have achieved space travel, yet you remain on one planet." Jack felt his face grow hot. "Earth is our home." Dorn looked at Jack with what seemed like pity. "A truly advanced species does not cling to a single world, Commander. It is primitive." The aliens all made various sounds of agreement or amusement. "Perhaps you would like to see more of our planet," the president suggested, trying to hide her anger. "Earth has much to offer." "We have seen enough from orbit," said Dorn, looking out the window at the blue sky and green trees. "Though I must admit, your world looks unusually intact." Another alien, tall with 4 arms and gray skin, spoke quietly to Dorn in their language. Jack couldn't understand the words, but he noticed the alien pointing at the window, at the birds flying by, at the plants growing near the building. Dorn seemed bothered by whatever was said. He turned back to the humans. "We have come to invite a small group from Earth to attend the Galactic Summit in 3 months. There you will meet representatives from all space-traveling species in this part of the galaxy." "We would be honored," the president said. As the meeting ended, Jack walked with the aliens back to their ship. Dorn stopped at the door and looked up at the sky, then down at the grass under his feet. "Is something wrong, Ambassador?" Jack asked. Dorn seemed to hesitate. "It has been a very long time since I stood on a world like this." For a moment, his cold manner dropped, and Jack saw something else in his eyes. A mix of confusion and what looked strangely like fear. "Perhaps," Dorn said, his voice quieter now, "we should take a closer look at your Earth after all." The alien ship took off, leaving Jack watching the sky, wondering what about Earth had caused that reaction. He would soon find out that humanity's greatest weakness, being stuck on one planet, might actually be their greatest strength. 3 weeks after first contact, Captain Emma West stood in front of her bedroom mirror, checking her uniform one last time. As a top scientist with military training, she had been chosen to lead the small human team to the Galactic Summit. Her hands shook slightly as she pinned her medals to her chest. The weight of humanity's first impression rested on her shoulders. "You'll do great," said her brother David, watching from the doorway. "Just don't let them push you around." Emma smiled. "I'll try my best." The alien ship sent to collect the human delegation was smaller than the first one, but still impressive. 4 humans: Emma, a diplomat named Marcus, a biologist named Ray, and an engineer named Lisa, walked up the ramp into the ship with small bags of personal items. Ambassador Dorn waited inside with 2 other aliens. "Welcome aboard," Dorn said without warmth. "The journey to the Galactic Council station will take 6 days in your Earth time." The inside of the ship was cold and strange. The walls were bare metal with no decorations. The rooms given to the humans were small and plain. Emma tried to hide her disappointment. She had imagined something more. Well, more like the spaceships in movies. On the second day, the humans were invited to eat with the ship's crew. The food was strange. Colored cubes that tasted like nothing Emma had ever eaten before. As they ate, a tall alien with silver skin named Krell asked questions about Earth. "So your people have never tried to live on your moon? Or build cities in space?" he asked. "We have space stations," Emma explained, "but most people live on Earth." Krell made a sound like a laugh. "My people left our homeworld 300 years ago. We live on 12 planets now, and have mining operations on 30 more. What happened to your homeworld?" Ray the biologist asked. The alien went quiet for a moment. "We outgrew it." Emma noticed how the aliens would not give straight answers about their home planets. When she asked to see pictures of their worlds, they always changed the subject. On the 4th day, Emma found Dorn alone on the ship's observation deck, looking at the stars. "May I join you?" she asked. Dorn nodded. "Your world is far behind us now." Emma stood next to him. "You seemed surprised by Earth when you visited. Why?" Dorn was quiet for a long time. "It has been many generations since I saw a world with so much life." "Don't all planets have life?" "No," Dorn said simply. "Not anymore." Before Emma could ask more questions, Krell entered the room. "Ambassador, we're receiving a message from Admiral Thorne." Dorn straightened up. "I will take it in private." After he left, Krell turned to Emma. "You should prepare yourself for the summit. The other species will not be impressed by your single-planet status." "Why does that matter so much?" Emma asked. "What's wrong with living on one world if it meets our needs?" Krell's face showed something like pity. "A species that stays on one planet is like a child that never leaves home. It shows weakness, fear of the unknown. Or maybe it shows respect for our home," Emma said quietly. Krell laughed. "Such primitive thinking. Planets are resources to be used, not treasured like pets." On the final day of the journey, the ship approached a massive space station. It was shaped like a wheel, spinning slowly in the emptiness of space. Ships of all sizes moved around it like bees around a hive. "The Galactic Summit is held here," Dorn explained as the humans gathered at the window. "Representatives from 47 spacefaring species will attend." Emma felt very small suddenly. Humanity was just one species, with just one planet. How could they impress anyone here? As their ship docked, Lisa the engineer touched Emma's arm. "Remember," she said, "they might have more planets than us, but we still have something they don't." "What's that?" Emma asked. "A home we didn't have to leave behind." Emma nodded, feeling a little stronger as the doors opened to reveal the alien station beyond. The Galactic Summit was held in a giant round room, with raised seats going up like steps in a circle. Each species had its own section, marked with strange symbols. The human delegation was given the smallest section, near the bottom. Emma felt like she was in a fishbowl as she and her team took their seats. Hundreds of aliens of all shapes and sizes stared down at them. Some pointed, others whispered to each other. A few even laughed. "I feel like we're the new kids at school," Marcus whispered to Emma. "The weird new kids." A loud sound like a gong rang through the room, and everyone fell silent. In the center of the room, A platform rose up carrying 5 aliens. Emma recognized one as Ambassador Dorn. The others were new to her. "I welcome all species to the 347th Galactic Summit," said one of the aliens, tall with green skin and 4 eyes. "We have much to discuss, but first, let us welcome our newest contact species, the humans of planet Earth." All eyes turned to the human section again. As tradition dictates, the new species will present their achievements and capabilities. The green alien continued. "Human representative, please step forward." Emma stood up, her legs shaking slightly. She walked to the center platform, which lowered to let her step on. Then it rose again, lifting her up for all to see. "Greetings to all," Emma said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I am Captain Emma West of Earth. My species has existed in our current form for about 300,000 years." A murmur went through the crowd. Emma wasn't sure if that was considered a long time or a short time to these aliens. "We have built civilizations, created art and music, developed science and technology. We have mapped our planet, explored our oceans, and begun our journey to the stars." Emma pressed a button on the small device she carried. Above her, a large screen appeared showing images of Earth, its blue oceans, green forests, white mountains, and bustling cities. "This is our home," she said with pride. "Earth." The room grew louder with whispers and comments. Emma continued, showing more images: the Great Wall, the pyramids, modern skyscrapers, farms, and natural wonders. "While we have only recently achieved spaceflight, we have—" "A single planet," interrupted a voice from one of the higher sections. "You come to a galactic summit with just one world to your name." Laughter spread through the room. Emma felt her face grow hot. "Earth meets all our needs," she tried to explain. "We have focused on. If your planet meets all your needs, why even reach for the stars?" called another voice. "Perhaps you should have stayed home." More laughter. Emma looked to Dorn for help, but he simply watched with a neutral expression. "We seek knowledge and friendship," Emma said firmly. "We want to learn from other species and share what we know." "What could you possibly teach us?" someone shouted. The green alien raised a hand for quiet. "Thank you, human. You may return to your seat." Emma's platform lowered, and she walked back to her team, her head held high despite the humiliation. As she sat down, she noticed something strange. Not all the aliens were laughing. Some were leaning forward, studying the images of Earth with intense interest. After the session ended, the humans returned to their assigned quarters on the station. They were all quiet, feeling the weight of their poor reception. "That could have gone better," Ray said finally. There was a knock at their door. When Marcus opened it, a tall, weathered-looking alien stood there. His skin was dark gray with patches of lighter color that looked like old scars. He wore what appeared to be a military uniform with symbols of rank. "Captain West," he said in a deep voice. "I am Admiral Thorne of the Valari Fleet. May I speak with you privately?" Emma nodded, curious. As Marcus closed the door behind them, Admiral Thorne looked around to make sure they were alone. Then he leaned closer to Emma and said in a low voice, "There is something very unusual about your world, Captain. I have never seen a homeworld so intact, so alive, and I believe some in the Confederation are afraid of what that might mean." Emma followed Admiral Thorne down a quiet hallway on the space station. They entered a small room filled with strange machines and screens. 3 other aliens were there, working at the devices. They looked up when Thorne and Emma entered. "This is my science team," Thorne explained. "They have been studying the data about your Earth since we received it." One of the aliens, small with 6 arms and purple skin, stepped forward. "Captain West, my name is Mira. Your planet is different from anything in our records." Emma wasn't sure if this was good or bad. Different how? Mira touched a screen, and a 3D image of Earth appeared, spinning slowly in the air. "Your oceans still contain complex life forms. Your forests still grow naturally. Your atmosphere cleans itself. Even your cities have green spaces. Isn't that normal for a homeworld? Emma asked. The aliens looked at each other. Thorn spoke slowly. Not anymore. He touched the screen, and the image changed to show another planet. It looked brown and gray, with large areas that glowed with artificial light. No blue oceans, no green forests. This was my homeworld, Valeria, 200 years ago, Thorn said quietly. The last time anyone took images of it. What happened to it? Emma asked. We used it up, Thorn said simply. We took what we needed until there was nothing left that could sustain us. Emma felt cold. And the other species? Mira changed the image again, showing planet after planet, all looking used up, damaged, or covered in artificial structures. The same. Some worse than others. Some left their homeworlds 1,000 years ago. Emma thought about what she had seen on the alien ship and station. No plants, no animals, no natural materials. Everything was metal or synthetic. Is that why you all live on multiple planets? Because you use them up and move on? Thorn nodded slowly. The Confederation teaches that this is progress, that a species must spread to survive, that planets are just resources. Emma felt sick. That's horrible. It is our way, Thorn said, but he didn't sound proud. At least it has been for generations. Over the next few days, Emma split her time between attending summit meetings and secretly meeting with Thorn's team. She learned more about how the alien civilizations worked. They built huge mining operations on new planets, taking the metals and minerals they needed. They covered land with cities, took water from oceans, and changed the air to suit their needs. When a planet could no longer support them, they'd move to the next one. Meanwhile, Marcus and Ray explored the station and made their own discoveries. One evening, they returned to their quarters looking troubled. We found their food production area, Ray told Emma. Everything is artificial. They don't grow plants for food anymore. They don't raise animals. It's all made in machines. And we saw their living quarters, Marcus added. No windows, no natural light, no real connection to the worlds they live on. Emma shared what she had learned from Thorn. The humans sat quietly, trying to understand a way of life so different from their own. On the 5th day of the summit, Emma was walking back to their quarters when Krell stopped her in the hallway. You've been meeting with Admiral Thorn, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, he's been showing me how your civilizations work. Krell's eyes narrowed. Be careful, human. Some knowledge is dangerous. What do you mean? Krell looked around to make sure no one could hear them. The Confederation has existed for thousands of years because we all follow the same path. Expand, consume, move on. If other ways were possible. He didn't finish the sentence, but Emma understood. If the aliens learned that a planet could be used without being used up, it would challenge everything they believed. Tomorrow, Krell said, Ambassador Dorn will announce a visit to your Earth. The Confederation is curious. I thought we were primitive, Emma said with a slight smile. Perhaps, Krell replied, not smiling back. Or perhaps you have something we have all forgotten. 2 weeks later, Commander Jack Reynolds stood on the landing pad at the United Nations headquarters, watching the alien ship descend from the clouds. It was smaller than the first ship that had arrived, but still impressive. Are you ready for this? Asked the president, standing beside him. I hope so, Jack replied. Emma's messages suggested this visit is more important than we thought. The ship landed smoothly. The door opened, and out walked Ambassador Dorn, Krell, Admiral Thorn, and 5 other aliens Jack hadn't met before. Behind them came Emma and her team, looking tired but excited to be home. After formal greetings, Jack noticed something odd. The aliens kept looking at the sky, the grass, the trees nearby. Some of them bent down to touch the ground. One was staring at a bird flying overhead. We have prepared a tour, the president announced. We will show you Earth's different environments and achievements. The aliens traveled first to the Amazon rainforest. Their ship flew low over the endless green trees. When they landed and stepped out into the hot, humid air filled with the sounds of insects and birds, the aliens were completely silent. "This forest produces much of the oxygen in our atmosphere," Emma explained. "It's home to millions of different species." Dorn touched a tree trunk, feeling the rough bark. "And you, leave it here. You don't harvest it all." "We harvest some," Jack said, "but sustainably. The forest regrows." One of the alien scientists took readings with a small device. "This single forest has more different life forms than all our colony worlds combined," he whispered. Next, they flew to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. The aliens were given clear masks to see underwater. Jack watched as they floated on the surface, looking down at the colorful corals and fish. When they came back to the beach, Admiral Thorne pulled Jack aside. "Your oceans still have complex life," he said. "Ours died centuries ago." "I'm sorry to hear that," Jack replied. "Don't be sorry," Thorne said. "Be careful not to follow our path." The tour continued for 3 days. They visited a sustainable farm in Kenya that had produced food for generations without damaging the soil. They saw a city in Japan that had perfect air quality despite millions of people living there. They walked through forests in Canada, where trees older than human civilization still grew tall. At each stop, the aliens grew quieter, taking more readings, asking more detailed questions. On the last day, they visited a small town in Italy where people had lived continuously for over 2,000 years. The buildings were old, made of stone and wood, but still strong and beautiful. Gardens grew between houses. Children played in a park. "These buildings have lasted for hundreds of years?" Krell asked, touching an old stone wall. "Yes," Emma answered. "We build things to last." "We don't," Krell said quietly. "Why build something to last when you plan to leave?" That evening, the group gathered for a final dinner at the United Nations building. The aliens had been given Earth foods to try: fruits, vegetables, meats, and breads. They ate slowly, some with tears in their eyes. "This is real food," one of them said, "grown from the Earth itself." Ambassador Dorn stood up to speak. The room went quiet. "When we first saw that humans lived on only one planet, we thought you were primitive," he said. His voice was different now, less proud, more thoughtful. "We were wrong." He looked around the room, at the wooden tables, the flowers in vases, the open windows letting in fresh air. "My species left our homeworld 500 years ago," he continued. "It could no longer support us after we took too much from it. We thought this was normal. We thought all advanced species must outgrow their first homes." He paused, looking down at his plate of real food. "But you have shown us another way. You have not conquered nature. You have partnered with it. You have not used up your world. You have learned to use it wisely." Jack and Emma exchanged looks. This was not the same cold, superior alien who had first visited Earth. "Tomorrow we will return to the Confederation," Dorn said. "But I believe many of us will be back. We have much to learn from the species that refuse to abandon their home." 1 month after the aliens' visit to Earth, Emma sat in a large meeting room at the United Nations. Representatives from 30 countries filled the room, along with Jack and the rest of her team. On a big screen, Ambassador Dorn's face looked down at them from the Confederation space station. "The Confederation Council has reached a decision," Dorn announced. "We wish to form an alliance with Earth." The room filled with excited whispers. Emma caught Jack's eye across the table. They had hoped for this outcome, but weren't sure it would happen. "What kind of alliance?" the UN Secretary-General asked. "An exchange," Dorn replied. "We offer our advanced space technology, faster than light travel, energy systems, medical knowledge. In return, we ask for something more valuable." "And what would that be?" the Secretary-General asked. "Your environmental science, your sustainable farming methods, your forest management techniques. Your water purification systems. Dorn paused. We want to learn how to heal planets, not just use them. The human representatives looked at each other in surprise. The aliens were asking for things that seemed basic to them, but were apparently priceless to the Confederation. The screen split to show Admiral Thorne's face alongside Dorn's. We have a confession to make, Thorne said. We have been searching for a species like yours for centuries. What do you mean? Emma asked. Most species follow the same path, Thorne explained. They develop technology, use up their planet's resources, then move to the stars out of necessity. We assumed this was the only way. But you found another path, Dorn added. You developed technology while protecting your world. This is remarkable to us. Jack stood up. If your civilizations have been expanding for centuries, taking resources from planet after planet, isn't this alliance a risk for us? You have many ships, many weapons. A fair concern hung in the air. The aliens had the power to take what they wanted by force. Dorn looked uncomfortable. There is another truth we must share, he said. The Confederation's way of life is failing. The room went quiet. We are running out of suitable new planets within reach. The ones we've used cannot support us again. Some species are already facing resource shortages. If we cannot find a new way to live. He didn't finish the sentence. You need us more than we need you, Emma said, understanding. Yes, Thorne admitted. Your Earth is not just a curiosity. It's a model for survival we desperately need. The meeting continued for hours as both sides discussed details. When it ended, Emma and Jack walked outside to get fresh air. The sun was setting, painting the sky in orange and pink. Do you think we can trust them? Jack asked. I think they're desperate, Emma replied. They've been consuming planets for so long they've forgotten any other way to live. Now they're running out of new worlds to take. And if we share our knowledge, what's to stop them from taking Earth too? Emma looked up at the darkening sky. I've seen their faces when they stood in our forests, when they swam in our oceans, when they ate real food. They don't want to destroy Earth. They want to learn from it. Jack wasn't convinced. Still, we should be careful how much we share. Of course, Emma agreed. But think about it. All those planets they've damaged. Maybe we can help restore them. As night fell, they could see stars appearing. Somewhere up there was the Confederation, watching Earth with new eyes. Not as a primitive world, but as a rare treasure. You know, Jack said, when they first arrived, they mocked us for living on one planet. Now they envy us for it. Emma smiled. Sometimes staying home isn't a weakness. Sometimes it's the hardest, bravest thing you can do. The next day, the UN voted to accept the alliance. Earth would share its environmental knowledge in exchange for space technology. But they added one important condition. Earth's location would be classified. Only official ships could visit, and all travel would be strictly controlled. We're happy to teach you, the Secretary General told Dorn, but we will protect our home. Dorn bowed his head. We would expect nothing less from the species that remembered what the rest of us forgot, that a planet is not just a resource. It is a home. 6 months after the alliance was formed, Emma stood on the observation deck of a Confederation ship, watching the stars streak by. She led a team of 50 Earth scientists traveling to a planet called Nivos, one of the Confederation's older colony worlds that was showing signs of environmental collapse. We'll be arriving in 1 hour, said Admiral Thorne, joining her by the window. He had become Earth's strongest ally in the Confederation. I'm nervous, Emma admitted. What if we can't help? You already have helped, Thorne said, just by showing us it's possible to live differently. When the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, Emma got her first look at Nevos. From space, it looked nothing like Earth. No blue oceans, no white clouds, no green lands. Just brown and gray with patches of artificial light on the night side. Their ship landed near the largest city on Nevos. The air was thin and smelled of chemicals. The ground was hard with no plants growing. Tall buildings made of metal and glass rose into a hazy sky. The local aliens greeted them with a mix of hope and doubt. "You believe you can make this world live again?" asked their leader, a tall being named Valar. "We can try," Emma said, "but it will take time, maybe generations." Over the next weeks, the Earth teams spread out across Nevos. They tested soil, analyzed the atmosphere, and studied what little life remained. Every evening, they shared their findings. "The soil is dead, but not beyond saving," reported Ray, the biologist. "We need to introduce certain bacteria and fungi first." "The water cycle is broken," said another scientist. "We need to clean the existing water and then create systems to keep it clean." "The air has too much carbon," added a third. "We need to plant trees, millions of them." At first, the local aliens seemed skeptical, but when the Earth team helped them build the first test area, a 1-acre plot with clean soil, new plants, and a small pond, they began to believe. "It's working," Veller said in wonder, touching a small green shoot pushing up through the soil. "Life is returning." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jack supervised the first technology exchange. The aliens shared designs for more efficient energy systems that would reduce Earth's pollution. Humanity got its first faster-than-light engine, which would allow them to explore beyond their solar system. 1 year into the project, Emma invited Dorn to visit Nevos and see their progress. The test area had grown to 100 acres of green plants, small trees, and a lake with fish. Birds introduced from Earth flew in the clearer sky. "We have spread this model to 20 other damaged worlds," Dorn told Emma as they walked through the new forest. "Some species that left their homeworld centuries ago are talking about going back, about trying to heal what they abandoned." "It takes commitment," Emma said. "You can't just plant trees and leave. You have to change how you live." Dorn nodded. "That is the hardest part. But seeing this," he gestured to the green around them, "it gives us hope." On the 2nd anniversary of First Contact, representatives from all Confederation species gathered on the space station. Earth sent its own delegation, now treated with respect, not mockery. "2 years ago, we thought humans were primitive for living on one planet," Dorn said in his opening speech. "Now we understand they were wise. They never forgot what we all once knew, that life is precious, that balance is necessary, that taking without giving back leads to collapse." The new agreement expanded the alliance. More human teams would travel to help heal damaged worlds. More alien technology would come to Earth, carefully checked to ensure it wouldn't harm their environment. As the meeting ended, Emma found Admiral Thorne looking at a large screen showing a live image of Earth. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said. "Yes," he answered. "But the most beautiful part isn't what you can see from space. It's how you've lived there, not as conquerors, but as caretakers." Emma smiled. "Perhaps that's humanity's gift to the stars." "A gift we needed," Thorne said quietly, "though we didn't know it until we saw Earth." As she looked at her home planet shining blue and green against the blackness of space, Emma felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity had been mocked for staying on one planet, for not spreading across the stars. But in doing so, they had preserved something the rest of the galaxy had lost: the knowledge of how to live in harmony with a world, not just on it. Sometimes, she thought, staying home isn't a limitation. Sometimes it's the most important journey of all.